Hello there, Steve Snodgrass here, president of the Omaha UFO Study Group and regular guest on the University of Nebraska at Omaha's Spooky Action at a Distance radio program, available for free MP3 downloads at www.omahaufostudygroup.com. I am very happy to be here today to share some ideas on a theory I first developed in 2010 that I believe has the potential to contribute a great deal to the social sciences and hard sciences aspects of ufology and the ET phenomenon. The approach I call integral ufology is available in all its detail in white papers that are also posted and available for free download in the projects section of that website. As you can see, the title of this presentation is Integral Ufology, Self-Culture, and Nature Perspectives, which I hope will be terms that I can make clear. Another subtitle to this talk could be, How do you know what to believe or not to believe? In other words, should we reject everything we see and hear about UFO or ET claims? Should we accept everything? Most people are somewhere in between, aren't you? I hope this part of the presentation allows you to examine your own biases in a way that if you're content with the way you believe right now, that is, true believer or complete skeptic, you can take the red pill and remain content, or you can take a journey with me now into other possibilities by taking the blue pill. I gave a similar presentation on this subject at last year's symposium. I felt much of it is the same for those of you who recall any of it. You will remember I simply outlined a good method for evaluating UFO and ET claims that could improve what MUFON does. I never said anything about what I think they might be or how they might operate, so you'll have to wait until the end to hear some new ideas and opinions on who and what extraterrestrials and UFO craft might be. So, regardless, instead of starting with this question, I return to where I began with this question. What do we and ET have in common? No, it's not an interest in candy, and it's not necessarily something we would have in common with extraterrestrials, but an ability to make a choice and to have desires or interests of some kind, no matter how alien. Surely we would have that in common, yes? Here's another way to look at this problem. It was on the October 1st, 2010 radio program that this question was first asked. What do we and ET have in common? Over the course of a few other shows and over heated disagreement in the studio, we knew we had to avoid projecting humanity as it is onto ETs, but in my mind, we settled on these two things. If ETs of the kind generally described by witnesses as bipedal, that is, or possessing bilateral symmetry, 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, are in fact traveling to planet Earth in UFOs generally described as saucers, triangles, cigar-shaped craft, these beings or entities would necessarily have to, 1, be confined to operate with the same stuff in the universe we do, namely matter energy as we understand it, and the chemical elements we have discovered that occur naturally in the universe. If UFO craft are made of metals, there would have to be some kind of metallurgy or ability to construct such craft using some means of technology that is based on the same physical world and laws as we understand them. Second, consciousness or self-awareness, most likely intelligence, that would be preferable. ETs would have to have roughly the same thing as a simple feeling of being as we do. In other words, consciousness as we understand it. Matter, energy, and consciousness, an apparatus to prehend and comprehend, would be required for craft construction, and interstellar interdimensional travel would be required as well. Matter, life, and consciousness are the 3 ingredients then. So what is the least or minimalist thing we can say about them using the method of abductive reasoning, also known as Occam's razor? We agreed on the show that life is matter that chooses. From single-cell prokaryotes like a paramecium to a flower with photosynthesis that grows and leads toward the sun, what other word can we use to describe what life does than exhibit choice by way of growth and movement? We also said consciousness is life that remembers. I use the pig and the dolphin here, along with an image of Dave, Kyle, and John in the radio studio, because one thing they all have in common is an ability for essential awareness. To know that when pigs and dolphins stare in a mirror, they are not actually staring at another pig or just another dolphin, they are looking at themselves. Essential awareness is a step along the way to what we might consider understanding and intelligence, which presumably E.T. must have as well, just as we presume Dave, Kyle, and John do. But how do we bring our best effort to understand ourselves and the universe and everything we experience without projecting our own conceptions onto the thing we're studying? I'd like to talk about one method, but first we need to keep in mind two very important words. Apophenia is the more encompassing term which skeptic Michael Shermer has termed patternicity. The original term, coined by German neurologist Klaus Conrad in 1958, is, quote, unmotivated seeing of connections, end quote, accompanied by an, quote, experience of abnormal meaningfulness, end quote. Pareidolia is a subset of apophenia and is more specific. Apophenia can be attributed to statistics, paranormal, such as electronic voice phenomena, EVPs specifically, conspiracy theories, gambling, and synchronicity, as in the case of thinking about a person and the phone rings. Seeing and noticing patterns in the universe allows us to ask questions. But we don't want to find ourselves falling into an experience of abnormal meaningfulness or otherwise being entirely anthropomorphic. Visually, seeing patterns where none exist may look something like this. All we have in this image is a couple circles and a line and a larger circle. We would all recognize this image as an essential form of a face. This ability to notice patterns allows us to see the face on Mars. That pattern of face on Mars causes us to examine it and its surroundings, which may or may not seem like a worthwhile effort. But remember, the scientific method is all about asking the right questions. Now, if Barbie's friend Ken showed up, we've got something a bit more perplexing, but in all cases, the data, the images, the sounds, the experiences we have should cause us to ask questions without falling into the trap of apophenia, pareidolia, or in this case, matrixing, which is a word being used by paranormal investigators. This up at the upper left-hand side here is called a Necker cube, which in its original form was a simple line drawing of a cube that appears to protrude or extrude. You can see a simple block or the corner of a room looking up to the right. Now, how do you do this? Try it right now if you'd like. Presumably, E.T. would have this ability, yes? In this cube, you're looking at behind 8 peepholes, presumably. If all these black circle images were made with white lines, you would probably swear to me that this cube has imaginary white lines that cross over the top of the page. The point is that objects we study out there and in here in the mind may or may not have meaningful patterns, and in any case, we need to ask the right questions and take both sides every step of the way. I only suggest we need to ask the questions, test theories, and perform experiments examining the nature of reality in order to discover something true enough that we can rely on it. That is essential science. And this is the approach of integral theory.